What's up, everybody? Katie Bookworm coming to you with my February wrap-up. Let me tell you, I read a lot in February. I read a total of 20 books. That's right, 20 books. Some are audiobooks, others were physical. But I, in all honesty, loved the books I read this month. Do I have a favorite? I have two. It's tied after what I read last night. So I'm going to tell you the books I read in the month of February. So the first book I read was an audiobook that I actually finished. I was reading it in January, but I finished it in February. And that is Shadow of the Fox by Julie Kagawa. Funny enough, I actually read the whole trilogy in the month of February, because I cannot put it down. Even though I started Shadow of the Fox in January, I finished it in February. I then listened to the second book. I did the duology with The Fates Divided by Veronica Roth. I enjoyed it. I cannot put it down, so I had a very good time reading it. So I then read my first physical book, which was Crave by Tracy Wolff. Funny enough, I actually picked up the sequel towards the end of the month and read it. But I picked up Crave. I loved it. I loved all the pop culture references that were in this book. So I enjoyed it. I'm getting my books. I then read The Midnight Library by Matt Higgs. It was a very good story. I enjoyed it. It's definitely a dark book, but it's also a very good book that we don't really get to see the sides of. So I thoroughly enjoyed The Midnight Library. So I then picked up my manga for the month, which was volume 2 of Blue Exorcist. I enjoyed it. I'm enjoying reading this series. I've seen the anime, and I wanted to read the manga, so I've started reading the manga, and I also started collecting the manga. I did a whole order, which you'll see soon in my manga haul. So yes, I enjoyed it. And then my next audiobook was actually Kingdom Soul by Rena Barron. It was really good. I enjoyed it. I couldn't put the audiobook down. And so I am excited to finally, when I have time, to pick up the second book in the series that came out. And then I completed, the next two books are, I completed my current reread of this series. I wanted to reread it before the next book came out, which was later in February. So the next book I finished, which was number 7, was A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. I wanted to reread the whole series before A Court of Silver Flames came out. So in, I believe it was January or December, I started my reread of the series before the 4th book came out. So I had picked up A Court of Wings and Ruin, absolutely loved it. And then I picked up the novella that takes place right after A Court of Wings and Ruin and right before A Court of Silver Flames. I enjoyed it. Not my favorite just because it's how short it is, but it was a good waiting point until we got A Court of Silver Flames. I then read Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. If you don't know, they have created a Netflix show based off this series, but also the Shadow and Bone trilogy. I've been doing a reread of both. I actually finished my reread of the Six of Crows duology this month. I absolutely loved it. Obviously, I was more of a fan of Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom than I was Siege and Storm, but that's okay. I'm okay with that. And then I listened to Soul of the Sword by Julie Kagawa. That is the second book in the Shadow of the Fox trilogy. I loved it. A lot of things happened. And then we come to my top favorite book of the month, and maybe of the year so far. And that happens to be A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. I loved this book. The fact that I want to reread it again, and I want to plan to buy a second copy and tab it and start doing that. But I loved it. I finished it in 2 days. I'm sad that it's over. Do I want the next book? Yes. Would I have to wait? Yes. But I absolutely loved it. I loved hearing Nesta stories. I became such a fan of Nesta through this book. I wasn't a huge fan of hers, but now I am. So after reading A Court of Silver Flames, I finished Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo. I've been doing a reread of the Shadowbone trilogy and the Six of Crows duology and even the King of Scars duology before the Netflix show comes out in April. I had my issues with this book like everyone else does. I still enjoyed it. Again, I'm more of a fan of the Six of Crows duology. But I've had fun. So I still read it. I'm getting ready for the show. They released the trailer the other day. Netflix can't go wrong. And then the next book I read was These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. I enjoyed this. This is a Romeo and Juliet retelling, but with mafias and guns and everything. I enjoyed it. I couldn't put it down. I do know this is a duology, so I'm looking forward to the second book, which will come out sometime later this year or next year. But I'm looking forward to it. It looks good. I loved it. And then my next audiobook was The Night of the Dragon by Julie Kagawa. It was the third and final book in the Shadow of the Fox trilogy. I loved it. I couldn't put it down. Am I sad that it's over? Yes. But it was a really good trilogy. I originally started wanting to read it because I saw Books with Chloe read it and she enjoyed it. Well, she had it on her Goodreads, so I enjoyed it. The next book, number 15, is I finished another trilogy. I finished A Vow So Bold and Deadly by Bridget Kemmer. Obviously this was also Beauty and the Beast retelling. Obviously has changed after the first book. I enjoyed this series so much, and I'm sad that it's over, but I enjoyed it. I couldn't put it down when I finally got to read it because it came out in January, but I ended up not being able to read it in January, so I was happy to be able to read it in February. So, yay. I just have a pile of books that I'm like, please don't fall. Book number 16 for the month is another manga. I started reading another manga series besides Blue Exorcist, and that is Black Butler. I enjoyed it so much. I also watched the anime first. I enjoyed the anime, so I'm going to enjoy reading the manga for this series. Book 17 happens to be Vengeful by V.E. Schwab. I've gotten into a lot of more V.E. Schwab's books that I have in the past. I've enjoyed this series more so than ever. It's very easy reads for me. I've enjoyed it. I want the third book to come out now, but obviously V.E. Schwab is such a very talented writer that she has other series she has to focus on. But I am patiently waiting for this. Earlier this year I read The Secret Life of Addie LaRue by Victoria Schwab, and I loved it. She's becoming one of my favorite all-time authors. I enjoyed it, couldn't put it down. Book 18 is The Ravens by Cass Morgan and Danielle Page. I finally read this book. It's been on my TBR for months now, but I have finally read it. Woo! It's also a duology. The next book comes out in 2022, which I have time. But I enjoyed it. It was a very easy read. It had magic. It was set in college. It was just such a good book. I enjoyed it. I picked this book up Saturday and I finished it on Sunday because I read about 100 pages Saturday night before I'm like, okay, I'm going to bed. And then I finished the rest of the book Sunday. So I did a lot of reading this past Sunday. I'm filming this on Monday before work, so. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. Couldn't put it down. Can't wait to see the final book in the series and see what happens. Book 19 is a book I finished in a day. Am I surprised I finished it in a day? No. But that's just because I sat down and I did nothing. Sunday was a day of reading where I didn't leave the house. So I was able to finish Crooked Kingdom in a day. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. Obviously, I'm more of a fan of this duology by Leigh Bardugo. Just seeing these characters and seeing how you get to see some characters from the Grishaverse come into this world, which is very exciting. We got to see our favorite Stormhold in this duology made his appearance. But I enjoyed it. I loved it. I couldn't put it down. It's making me very excited to see the Netflix show, which actually looks really good. So that was Six of Crows. I'm nervous if I pee here, you could fall. So my last book that I read this month was an audiobook. It's an audiobook that I started. I think I started Thursday night or Friday. And I spent majority of Friday, Saturday, Sunday listening to it because it's a second book in a series. I read the first book earlier that month, and that book is Crush by Tracy Wolff. I don't own the book physically. I plan to, just so I can collect all the books. But I listened to Crush on audio. I physically read Crave, but it was nice to listen to the audiobook for Crush. And there was a lot of stuff that happened in this book, and I enjoyed it. The book ends on a freaking cliffhanger. A freaking cliffhanger. I'm like, I don't want to wait. I need the next book in my hands. Thankfully, book 3 comes out tomorrow. Of course, it also comes out the same day as Chain of Iron. So, there goes my weekend. I'm going to be reading again. But I am very, very, very excited to continue reading with how the second book ends. And those are the 20 books I read in February. I don't know where my brain is. It's the February wrap-up. I read 20 books. I've always find myself shocking that I could read a lot of books, but I also feel excited that I'm trying to push myself and be more of an avid reader, which is hard when you're working from home. But the fact that I've read 20 books in the month of February was really good. So thank you so much for joining me on my February wrap-up. I have to go put 13 books away and then start work. So, yay! So I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.